probably like the highest influencer paid categories, like beauty and cosmetics, right? There's tons of paid opportunities happening in that space. But in the coffee space, when you're really dealing with how something tastes, how it works, an intimate relationship with a routine every day, people can see right through a paid ad or a paid endorsement, right? So a lot of these creators, they rely on the trust that they have with their audience, and that would be eroded as soon as they're plugging products that they don't truly believe in.
You are listening to Power Marketing with Kevin Lee. Kevin and his agency Did It have helped thousands of businesses win through superior marketing, as have his books, articles, speaking engagements, and the E-Marketing Association Power Marketing podcasts. Here's Kevin.
I'm super excited to be chatting today with Etai Rahmil, who has transitioned himself from being a glass artist to a company called Pour Over, which is replacing the need for paper filters when it comes to making brewed coffee. So Etai reached out to me as my role as an angel investor, but I may or may not write a check to him for that. But I thought it'd be a great story to hear from you what the origin story was, how you went from working in glass for purely artistic reasons to having sort of a functional glass product that meets a real need.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. I'm excited to tell the story of Pour Over.
So what was the catalyst? Like, was there like a moment in time where you just like, you said, I have to do this?
Yeah, so I'll give you a quick background on kind of the steps leading up to the creation of Pour Over. So my background is in glass art. I found the art of glass blowing in my second year at school at University of Oregon. About 6 weeks later, I dropped out and decided that glass was my calling, is where my passion was. I hadn't found it yet until I picked up glass. And since then, I've been, trying to master the craft of glass art. And one caveat I will say in your intro is that my glassware is not only art, it is functional as well. So a lot of the pieces I make are functional pipes for the cannabis space, actually. So I bring a unique perspective to glass blowing in general, where I'm not only making things that can live as art, but are actual functional as well. So about 3 years ago, after I've had work placed in museums and galleries and private collections all over the country, I really wanted to find a way to bring my designs to millions of people and not just the select few that can afford original artwork. My other passion, coffee. My wife got me into coffee while we were living in Oakland. I started brewing all my coffee at home and really getting into it. And I thought, what a better way to kind of transition the skills that I've learned over the last 10 years to a field that doesn't have innovation in glassware. So I prototyped and developed the first product in my glass shop where I'm sitting right now. It was a different glass shop, but I'm sitting in my glass shop right now. And I showed my best friend of 25 years the product that I had made. And he said, "Oh man, this is it. I'm in. I want to join this. Let's do it." So with the small team, we launched on Kickstarter in August of 2020. So like as mid-pandemic as mid-pandemic can be, which definitely helped and hurt for different reasons. But we were successful. We sold over 6,000 units in 36 days. We raised over $350K in pre-sale capital, and really was able to kickstart the business after that campaign. Since that campaign, we've transitioned to a traditional Shopify direct-to-consumer site, and this year started focusing on other channels like Amazon, international distribution, and just starting in some retail. So we're also pushing forward with building out the product line and continuing to innovate in space.
Cool, cool. Well, that's super exciting. I think certainly most folks who've been exposed to glass blowing. I mean, for example, I think my more memorable exposure to glass blowing was when I was in Biot in France, which is, I think, it's their glass blowing capital, and watching the process that they go through and how each piece is somewhat unique, but also like 90% the same. That kind of mass produced, but not mass produced, right? And so I'm curious, like, for your first business, which was for the cannabis space, were you doing the sort of semi-mass produced where they were like nearly identical, but they had like those nuances that you get between the various pieces, or were they almost more custom order or custom articulated pieces?
Yeah, everything was a one-of-one commissioned piece, or a one-of-one piece that I had in my mind that I wanted to make. And I kind of developed this specialty in creating musical instruments. So you can check out my website, which is just etairahmil.com. I've become known for large scale replicas of different kinds of instruments, also some antiques, and masks is also in my repertoire. So yeah, definitely, like, kind of the higher end of what you would think of as functional glass art. And I think one piece of advice that I heard a long time ago is that if you're going to start a business, you better have a following first, because it's much harder to do so when no one knows you. And so in thinking about starting Pure Over, it was like, okay, I've already cultivated this audience. I have a good following on social networks. People look to me as a thought leader in the space. I think I have the wherewithal to be able to start this business and to be able to hit the ground running. And that's what we did. We leveraged my community to have success in the launch of the business, and really let it snowball from there.
Cool. Well, certainly it's a different type of manufacturing, if I'm thinking through the process in my mind correctly, in that, you need to create, some kind of a sieve unit that has a very specific porosity as it relates to a particular size of coffee ground, so that it sort of creates its own filter. And that to me sounds like it's not an art, but really more a science. And so, how did you approach this idea of, I need to be able to create sort of a more tightly controlled manufacturing process around this particular piece of glass product?
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, you're totally right. That was the hardest part, right? Like, there's tons of different glass coffee brewers, but none that have glass as the actual functional part of the filtration process. Right. That took the longest time, figuring out the size of holes, the thickness of the filter disc, until we found something that assisted in cake filtration, which is what we talked about briefly before. So the glass filter is not the only thing that is filtering all the grounds that don't fall into your coffee. When you do the initial bloom phase, which means when you saturate the grounds initially, CO2 is being released after that process, but also a solid cake forms at the bottom of the brewer. Now, what that does is, as you fill up water in the brewer, that cake actually helps filter the coffee itself. So the combination of the glass filter and cake filtration is what allows us to get a super clean brew with no paper or metal filter. Cool.
So for folks, a lot of folks would say, well, I'm using recycled paper filters already. So, do I really need a fully paper-free product? So what would your response to them be, from a marketing positioning perspective, of why they should, take the leap?
Yeah, I would say there's two main things. First of all, taste. When you're using a paper or even a metal filter, there's inevitably going to be a taste that's imparted onto your coffee. Whether it's small or not, it's there. Glass is the most inert material that we can use for products like this. There's absolutely no taste in your coffee besides coffee and water when using Pure Over. Besides that, even if you're using a recycled paper filter, most people are not composting, which results in like 750 million paper filters being discarded and ending in the landfill every day. That's 1.5 million trees a year just to create paper filters. That's just US. So it's a huge impact. It's not often talked about. But if you are looking to reduce one impact on a routine that you have daily, maybe even multiple times a day, some of us are brewing 2-3 cups of coffee a day. It's a sizable impact. So the taste is going to be better. You definitely have a mix between like a pour over and a French press is really like where we land. You get a little bit more of a bolder mouthfeel, but you really can bring out the flavors of your coffee like a pour over. And you're not going through 350 plus coffee filters a year.
Right. Well, I guess some investors might say, well, where's the annuity revenue, right? Melita, I'm sure, would say, oh, it's actually great that we sell filters because we, make just as much EBITDA on the filters as we do on selling, coffee makers or other coffee accessories. Do you expect there to be sort of reorders or as a result of just breakage or obsolescence or things like that just happen?
Yeah, breaking does happen. If you drop glass, it's going to break. We definitely sell, a good amount of replacements for people that use Pure Over on a daily. If something breaks, it's a bad morning for them. So whatever we can do to get that system brewing again helps everyone. And then also what we've learned is that when you buy a Pure Over, your immediate thought is like, okay, I need to gift one of these to a friend or a relative. So we see a huge swing in gifting. Our reorder rate is relatively high for a CPG company, right? We're sitting at about like 21% on returning customers. So what that tells us is that people really do fall in love with the product and immediately think, okay, who else needs one that I know? So besides replacements, it's that gifting, along with, building out the product line with the aesthetic that we've built. When you see a Pure Over product in the space, it's coming from us based on our design. And what we've seen with the only other product we've launched since our start on Kickstarter is everyone who bought initially was running to us for that next product. And so we're excited to continue building out the product line. We have a couple launches coming in the next few months. So that's our goal.
So do you, as part of an homage to your heritage as a glass blower in your other business, which you may or may not be continuing with, do you sort of in your about section link people over should they want to buy a piece of, a custom cannabis pipe?
We don't have necessarily a link to buy, but my story is definitely on the website. I'm easy to find. I'll always continue to blow glass. It's definitely, the passion that has led me in life. And to be honest, the more I blow glass, the more it relates to product design as well. I'm always learning. I'm always trying new things. If I stop doing that, I don't see how innovation happens in my other businesses. So it'll always be a part of me. It's not something I'm ever going to stop doing until I'm literally can't spin glass in my hands. But it definitely keeps me sharp and it definitely keeps the ideas flowing. And that's how Pure Over started in general. So I wouldn't want to cut that tie ever. It's definitely a plus.
So one challenge with innovative products is that because it's so innovative, people don't know it's even possible. Right. Whereas if it's something where, the category has been around for a long time, you can rely on Google search and people can type in, HDTV or, mirrorless camera. And because there are lots of them out there, right, it's easy to harvest that existing demand. There's certainly a lot of demand for coffee and coffee brewers, but if the people don't realize that you can get one that's filter free and also doesn't even have a steel mesh in it, that's a considerable bump up. But if they don't know about it, then they don't know to search for it. So what's your strategy been from a marketing perspective to sort of try to get the word out particularly for harvesting existing demand, where the person, had they known about it, would absolutely buy your product?
Yeah, definitely. So since our start, I have given such importance to jumping into the community myself, meeting the people that start the conversations on TikTok, on Instagram. And really what we've seen is the people that lead those conversations try Pure Over, and they love it so much that it becomes part of their daily routine, and they're constantly posting, telling people about it, partnering with us at trade shows. And so education is key with our product, 100%. Like you said, there's a slightly different process to it. So we know that we need to focus on education, because if nobody understands it, why would they buy it? So we really partner with the people that are listened to in the space. And we've developed amazing relationships, organic relationships, that don't want to get paid by us to say talking points. They partner with us and they spread Pure Over knowledge because they genuinely love it. And so that has been a huge part of the reason why we've been able to get the product out to so many people. We're in over 16,000 homes currently, and we can directly attribute that to word of mouth and, letting people know on TikTok that the people that they trust in coffee trust Pure Over.
Yeah, that's really cool. Certainly everybody wishes that they could have organic influencer marketing as opposed to paid influencer marketing. And when it's a passion-centric product like your own, that's the best kind of endorsement you can get, is where people will actually just be happy to endorse the product as opposed to it being inauthentic or partially authentic.
Totally. And like you see, I would say like the main difference between, which is probably like the highest influencer paid categories, like beauty and cosmetics, right? You can't, there's tons of paid opportunities happening in that space. But in the coffee space, when you're really dealing with how something tastes, how it works, an intimate relationship with a routine every day, people can see right through a paid ad or a paid endorsement, right? So a lot of these creators, they rely on the trust that they have with their audience, and that would be eroded as soon as they're plugging products that they don't truly believe in. So it's a little bit different than the rest of the creator space for those reasons.
Right. Certainly, putting my entrepreneur and marketing mad scientist hat on, I guess another area that I'd be curious if you're exploring is the idea of partnering with the coffee manufacturers, particularly boutique, niche coffee manufacturers, as a potentially not so much a distribution arm where they're owning the product, but certainly they could do inserts into their packaging, promoting your product. But again, the more authentic that would be, the better that would resonate, I guess, with their customers. Have you explored any, ideas of them including promotional materials in their shipping if they're sort of a boutique coffee company?
Yeah, we've definitely put a heavy emphasis on helping the community in general, which in turn helps us. So we do like roast of the week features where we feature a new independent roaster every week on our social media. Just this year, actually after attending the Specialty Coffee Expo in Portland a few months ago, we started to really develop relationships with roasters and coffee shops all over the country to not only offer Pure Over in their cafe on their menu, in retail, but also, yes, digital partnerships, cross marketing. It's been super helpful. We are a super exciting method. So when people see it in a cafe, they're like, oh my God, I could do that at home. And so it's definitely been a part of the strategy. We also might at some point get into being a place where people go to find new coffees. It's not necessarily our focus at the moment, as we just are pretty laser focused on building out the product line and innovating in the space continually. But those are our people walking into coffee shops and buying fresh beans. That's who we really need to connect with. So yeah, totally. We're ever evolving into the space where we're not just online, but we're in the cafe, and people kind of see where we're coming from both angles.
Great. I know a potential consumer, who's not a daily coffee consumer, but probably more than half of the time. When I looked at the product, I was sort of fascinated by the idea that it creates its own filter as a result of the caking process. But the sort of scientist in me thought to myself, well, I don't know if I could get the consistency right, every day, like, grind the beans to the proper level. Because if I grind them too thin, then maybe it clogs, and if I grind them too coarse, then maybe it doesn't create the cake. And sort of how much latitude is there in process that somebody could still feel pretty confident that they're going to brew a good cup of coffee?
Yeah. So grinding your coffee right is like one of the biggest impacts with any brew method you have.
Yeah.
And so to put this in perspective, say your grinder has 20 steps on it, one being like super, super fine for espresso and 20 being like boulders, right? Anywhere between that, like 7 and 13 and 14, you'll be able to find a great pour over brew. So it has a decently wide range. Every roast is a little different too, the way it retains water. So dialing in your grind is something you always have to do. But yes, it's definitely important with pour over. But what we say is start right down the middle, and that'll kind of give you a good understanding of where you're at. And it shouldn't take more than either that or one more adjustment to find your perfect grind.
And are there sort of a sweet spot from sort of the number of cups that one can make with this process? Because obviously the surface area of the cake portion of the unit, right? The greater the surface area of that, the probably more coffee grounds you can put on top of it. So do you have makers that support single cups all the way up to a particular level of size for like when you're having company over?
Yeah, so the perfect, cup of coffee from pour over is right around 10 to 12 ounces. However, there is a process that you can make up to 20. It does take a little bit longer, but it's definitely possible. What we have seen is the single cup coffee maker has taken off in the last few years, especially since COVID. And like at home, I have 2 pour overs on the desk. I make one for me and my wife at the same time. It's a super easy process. It takes about 4.5 minutes. And so we really have focused in on the single cup. And maybe in the future we'll come out with an XL that can brew a bit of a larger batch. But the method really lends itself to that really amazing, decadent single cup of coffee.
Great. So what portion of your next year's plan has you most excited? Assuming, that your current fundraising round, closes out in the next month or two, and you sort of now have that investment capital available. What has you excited?
Yeah, I think realizing some of these new product additions that we want to bring to the product line and being able to support the channels that we've recently opened up. I'm a designer at heart. That's where my passion lies. I control a lot of the design, marketing aspect of the business. My partner handles a lot of the day-to-day business part of it. So what gets me excited is design and new products. And so I'm looking forward to being able to spend time on those, really build out this line so you can come to Pour Over for all your coffee and espresso needs, maybe tea here in the next year or two as well. I have some ideas brewing up there that are getting me pretty stoked to start R&Ding, but it's really just building out the product line. We have so many ideas, and our aesthetic can really be translated into so many different products that seeing that be fulfilled is where my excitement lies.
Great. And in addition to the sort of organic influencer marketing that you're doing and potential product partnerships, are there any other marketing channels that you look forward to testing to see if they can sort of scale up profitably for you?
Yeah, I think that digital ads, as scary as they are and as tough they are to control, We know we need to ramp that up a bit to find new customers non-organically. So really taking a deep dive into digital ads is going to be huge. But not only that, I think it's doing more on the ground, event sponsorships, and leaning into collaborations. I think in the last couple of years, just getting a hold of the logistics of the business was super important. And now that we're really feeling comfortable in that area, I can start, doing some of the fun brand collaborations, artist collaborations, to just get our word out, get our products out in new ways to new audiences that wouldn't have found us in our traditional marketing as of right now. So collaborations are super exciting, and we have some in the works. Some have taken a little bit long to come to fruition as we've been focusing on some of the not as fun stuff like supply chain and logistics. But now again, like we have a good hold on that. Some of these other more fun aspects can come to life.
Great. Well, thanks so much for joining me. It's been a pleasure learning about your journey in launching a product that clearly has some product market fit for a significant chunk of the population.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. It's been great.
Kevin Lee's Power Marketing is available on all your favorite podcast networks. Kevin loves helping businesses excel at marketing. Having marketing challenges? Just like Santa in The Miracle on 34th Street, if Kevin can't help you, he'll know someone who can. Find him on LinkedIn, subscribe, or follow.